And here I want to compare a timestamp, or in this case, we're going to use the updated timestamp, so the most recent time our match was saved. And we're going to compare that against the time zone, or what the current time is in real life. So what it's saved in the database versus now. And the checking this time is fairly straightforward and easy to do. Now we already have all the imports done on our actual shell, so I'm not going to do them again. But if you don't have them and you did match.all, you could just get that first one here, just like that. But I already have it here, and I'm going to set it equal to, we're going to say the match. Say the match is equal to this. So the match is now that instance. So if I did match.updated, I'll get a timestamp. Oops, we want to get the match 0. Let's set that again to 0. And now the match will be the instance, because this is going to bring back whether or not it's true or false, right? Okay, so now that we've got that, we'll do the match.updated. And it brings back this timestamp. So this is giving me the time as to when it was actually set inside of Django, right? So this is the last time it was actually saved. So if I went to do the match.save and then looked at the timestamp, it would change just ever slightly, right, from the time it's actually saved to then. So in order for us to make comparison to this, we need to know what the time is now. So like if I wanted to know the difference between when this was saved and now, I would have to do some calculations. So to do that, we are going to import something called Django Timezone. So it's really easy. So Django.utils import timezone. And timezone.now gives us that time of now, right? It's only slightly longer because I've only been talking for a little bit. So it's not really that much different. So what I can do is actually compare these two. So I can say timezone. Actually, I'm going to set not now equal to timezone.now, just so it's a little easier to work with. I'll say now equals minus the match.updated and hit that. And this is the difference between that, right? So that's the now, as in, like, I only set it once, but if I did timezone.now minus the match.updated, if I did this every time, it's going to be subtly different each time. Right, so that's giving me this time delta. So the difference between it is what it's actually showing me, is this time delta. So when I want to check whether or not I should update this, let's say, for instance, 12 hours has passed. And that's when I want to update it. Every 12 hours, I want to make sure it's updated, at least if it's looked at. Right, if it's looked at, I want to update it if it hasn't been updated in the past 12 hours. So that means that I want to run this doMatch instance method on it if it hasn't been updated in the last 12 hours. So this check update is how we're going to do that. So to create our own time delta, we can import from our import date time, and then we just do date time delta, and we can say hours is equal to 12. You can also say days is equal to 100 or whatever. You can set all of that stuff. But I'm going to set hours is equal to 12 because that's what we're trying to say here, is I want the hours to be separate from that. So like the hours ago. So basically I'm going to say, I'll end up saying now minus date time delta hours equals to 12. So this means 12 hours ago, approximately, right? So I said now before. So it's just a few seconds off probably, but this is about 12 hours ago. So since it's 12 hours ago, I want to see if the updated time is greater than those 12 hours. If it's not greater than those 12 hours or this time, then let's update it. So basically, if it's happened within the last 12 hours, don't update it. If it hasn't happened within the last 12 hours, update it. So this is what we'll do here. I have to do some imports on our models, and we'll do from Django.utils import timezone. And then above that, we'll do import date time. So datetime, of course, is a Python module, where utils timezone is a Django module. And the timezone has to do with how your database is actually stored, so in your settings. Just like what we've discussed before, but if you go into base and go down to here, this timezone, that is what it's going off of. There are ways to make this a little bit more precise, but for us, it doesn't have to be exactly precise. We just want to make sure that we are updating it regularly, depending on how we actually design everything else. And I don't want to update it every time because it's not necessary, especially because, well, this function is actually not that efficient. So this stuff we'll have to do still within this get points algorithm to update and make it a little bit better. But the point is we don't want to have to iterate every single time we're trying to do something with this match, or when we're trying to update it, or check whether or not it should be updated. So now that we've got this, going back into this thought of the time delta and the difference, we're first off going to say now equals to timezone.now, and then offset is now equal to now minus date time dot time delta, and then we're going to say hours is 12. So this is 12 hours ago. 12 hours ago. So if the self.updated is greater than the offset, then we don't do anything. So if it's less than the offset, so if it's outside of that, less than or equal to this offset, then we'll do self.do match. And the reason we can just do match, that means it's basically updating for us. And then else we'll just say print, we'll print already updated. And I'll put it in parentheses because this works on Python 2 and 3. All right, so now we've got this. So let's actually try it out. I'm going to have to exit the shell, and I'll enter the shell again. And the reason I have to exit the shell is because of how we would even be checking. Well, we're going to have to fix this error, but the reason we have to exit the shell is because we made changes to the models, and the shell doesn't know about those changes, so we have to save it. It's giving us an error here, so we have this call wrong. So that's greater than or equal to, just like that. This sign, the greater than or less than sign, has to come first. So there's just a little syntax error. All right, so let's run the shell, and we'll import the matches. So matches.models, import match. And then I'll just say m equals to match.objects.all, and I'll get 0. And then I'll do m.check update, already updated. Right? So it's not in the last 12 hours. So what I'm going to do now is I actually want to change this last updated time to something different, or at least change the check update to something different so we can check to make sure that it actually is working. So I'm just going to change this to seconds real quick. So I'm going to exit out of this and then do the shell again and do the imports again, just copying from above. And then we'll do m.check update, and it actually runs that update for us, and it's the same, but it did check that update and run it in the way we wanted it to. And then I did it within 12 seconds again, and then if we let a little bit more time go, 10, 9, 8, so on, and then we can actually check this update again, and more than likely it will actually work for us. And it did. So this is good. So we can change this back to hours, and now that's going to be the check update that we want to see. So this also means that if we scroll back up to our get or create match, we can do this check update every time we get any object. So we'll just do object.checkUpdate and object2.checkUpdate. So it's actually going to be running all of this stuff for us. And since we are creating this check update here, we are actually being a little bit redundant with the matches itself. Right? So we have this new instance here, and we have it down here as well. So what I'm going to do is actually comment this out and say new instance dot check update, and we'll be like, do we want it to be check update or do match? That's actually what we want to do, is we want to run the instance method, because if we did check update, it's not going to actually do the match, because it would have just been saved, and this timestamp will happen, or updated will happen on that time as well. All right, so now that we've got this, let's go ahead and try this out with a few things. So let's exit the shell first. So python manage.py shell, and we will import it again. So matches.models, import match, and I'll just say m equals to match.objects.all, and it's going to be that first one. So m, and then I'll just set the A user to m.user A, and then B user to m.user B. So A and B are those users, and then I'll just delete m.delete, and then we'll create a new match. So we'll do match.objects.get or create match user A equals to A, user B equals to B. We hit enter, and it creates that match for us. And we can also do, we could try that again, and it's not going to create it for us, and it also prints out already updated, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. So now we can get rid of all of this redundant code, and we notice that our model manager now is working off of instance methods, so we're not repeating ourselves too many times. And then we've got this check update, which is really useful for us, because then now we can actually create another model manager, which is actually running instance updates or instance methods later, which I'm going to leave out for now. But basically, we can update a big group of these items because of the instance methods based on what we've got here. All right, so if you have any questions on this, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.